On today's World Insight, no one nation can neither safeguard world peace nor fix global challenges single-handedly. So that's where the United Nations come in. After 80 years since the UN's founding, what's next for multilateral global governance? How has the UN delivered on its mission? In the panel, Ying Sheng, the country manager of the Human Settlements Program. Zhao Hai, the director of the National Institute for Global Strategy. Irfan Ashraf, a host of Pakistani Samaa TV. Matyas Kohan, foreign policy writer of the Hungarian magazine Mandiner. And Vitumbiko Caroline Ng'oma, a Malawian student at Peking University.
Hello and welcome to World Insight. I'm Tian Wei. This year marks the 80th anniversary of the United Nations. In response to growing global challenges to peace, development, security, and governance, China has proposed building a community with a shared future for mankind through initiatives on development, security, civilization, and global governance. These efforts promote a more fair and just global system. I'm honored to partner with the United Nations to host a special roundtable entitled United for the Future, the UN at 80. At this anniversary, how can multilateralism be revitalized to effectively address the global challenges today? Let's hear from our panelists. You know, the abstract concept of global governance, of course, has been very much discussed, but I would love to hear from your personal perspective how it matters to your life. Vitu, maybe we start from lady first.
Okay, I think global governance is an important issue that we cannot put aside. That's a fact. But good governance is about inclusiveness, not just about laws, not just about policies, but those who are actively participating in it. So in Malawi, where I come from, like many parts in the world, young ladies are usually underrepresented in decision making. So this is mostly because of cultural and poverty, and most of them early marriages. So due to that, young girls go into marriages at a very young age, and they become housewives. So when they become housewives, they are limited to just being housewives. Mm. So they don't positively now contribute to issues that matter the most, issues that concern them. So I think what really hits me the most is to see young women being represented because they bring a new perspective, a new voice. And just like Margaret Thatcher once said, she said that if you want something done, call a woman. But if you want something said, call a man. So I believe when men and women come together, we can do something greater rather than putting aside the young voices and the girl child's voice.
Right, sounds great. You're obviously something dear to your heart, gender equity and also girl leadership.
Yes.
Well, I'm going to call on some men to talk for now, at least. Irfan, what about global governance? That abstract concept, how is it translated into your life as a journalist?
Global governance does not mean just to develop countries. It doesn't mean just to reduce the poverty. But it's a very bigger spectrum. As per my opinion, global governance is also safeguarding the national interest of the countries. It's also uplifting the life of locals. It also giving an opportunity to develop the countries. It also giving opportunities to utilize the resources for the betterment of their people.
Matyas, how you are translating that abstract concept of global governance into a daily life of yours?
Like more and more in the last couple of decades, we run into situations where it seems to be not very much global what we do anymore. Mm-hmm. It seems to be the actions of an isolated part of the world. And I think that is a sign that global governance, as we designed it 80 years ago, we as in people from the collective West, is crumbling, and somebody at some point had to say something about it. And in this sense, I'm very happy that China is taking the initiative in reforming global governance. I'm moderately optimistic that it's going to work, because for any kind of reform of global governance, you need to push it through the institutions of global governance itself, which doesn't make reform easier. Exactly, but I think that this crying and obvious failure of what was designed 80 years ago to work for 2025 had to be spoken out loudly. And there has to be a process of reform that at the bare minimum brings the distribution of global power, in political power, into line with the distribution of global economic and military power as it is in 2025, not in 1945.
One could tell these are two journalists talking on big topics every day, and certainly reflected in our conversation as well. To you, Sheng, while others are talking about global governance, you are playing a role in part of it because you are serving UN Habitat here in China. So tell me, how is the abstract concept of global governance translated into your daily work?
I recently visited to a city in Zhao Hai. We see how the local city government transfer a very shanty place where was actually for garbage collectors. They live there, and currently they did an urban regeneration project and transformed it into a very heated tourism site. We see that such kind of actions, they actually transform the development status of the city, and it is become a booming economic area. So by such kind of things, we see that if we can put, for example, people-centered, inclusive development and innovation together, then we can make a very good, local governance.
It seems that what you are saying is how to translate a big word into real things on the ground, one step at a time. That's a very interesting relationship you just mentioned between local governance and global governance.
Yes.
Wonderful point. I'm going to come back to you a bit later. Hai, what about for you as an intellectual and a public intellectual and an academic in China?
Well, I think before we talk about grand things, I want to talk about my personal experiences, like smaller things, because I'm a frequent international traveler. So global governance appears when you travel across borders, right? And it suddenly, some things you never thought of suddenly appears. For instance, if you travel across border, you need to carry a passport.
Right.
So have you ever thought about why everybody's passport is at the same exact size? That's because global governance, global agreement, right? And then if you carry a phone across borders, why you take out your SIM card and then you can put in another SIM card from another country, and it works. Yeah. It's standard. It's the rule of the road. I think that's exactly what we need when globally we connect with each other, talk to each other, communicate with each other, and exchange with each other. So you go across border at the same time, you carry renminbi, and then you arrive in the other country, you want to switch the currency, and then you can spend that money in that country. But nowadays you can carry a digital currency and then don't worry about the paper money. So it's getting more and more convenient, but then you need a mechanism to process this whole exchange behind the doors, right?
So very interesting. What you are saying is global governance still works. Just look at the fresh examples that out of our daily travel around the world. But Matyas is arguing these things need to change, right? It seems that you are having a little bit different opinions there. So to you, what needs to be changed and what should be remained?
Well, that depends on the deeper things. What I talk about is like more superficial arrangement of how do you cross borders. But then when you talk about high politics, many sophisticated, complicated issues, then we have to address who's making those rules, right? Who's making, if you drive on the left side or the right side, and what standard give you the permission to access a certain market? And that's when the decision maker or this democratization of global decision making is becoming more and more important. And that's why when the rise of global south is standing, those countries standing up and demand more of a say in the rules making globally, and that's pushing the revolutionary change of global governance. And that's what related to Matyas said, why Europeans or Euro-centered view consider global governance only their own rule is global rule. But actually now, more and more global south countries demand that the global rule must be made by global citizens, global participant, right? But again, that is not enough because we don't have a proper mechanism to ensure everybody here from the global south are represented and also benefited from that global governance.
Matyas?
I think in the last couple of years, due to unilateral sanctions, this has taken a step back. It doesn't work the same way as it used to work if you travel between China and Russia even, Europe and Russia even. There are many outliers, many outlier countries in the world where all of these mechanisms do not work. You cross the border from China into the DPRK, none of what you just said is going to work. You are not going to have a SIM card that works, and you're not going to have any kind of a reasonable solution to pay for things in the DPRK. There are places and there are things, policy areas that have been left outside of the system of global governance, not standardized, not harmonized, and not working.
But the thing is, are we talking about the mainstream, or are we talking about sporadic cases? Of course, when it comes to sporadic cases, there could always be so-called exceptions. And yet, if the main theme or if the mainstream is becoming questionable, then that becomes a problem, isn't it?
How big are these sporadic things? Are they Cuba big or are they Russia big? I think we are going into a direction where the issue is unregulated by global governance, and the problems we are facing together but not solving together are growing large enough and larger than just sporadic problems.
All right. So since you use the, go ahead, Irfan.
I think we all need to build a consensus. I remembered 10 years back, or maybe 12 years back, when there was a news in Pakistan that Pakistan and China signed a $46 billion project, Pak-China Economic Corridor. At that time, that was only news. But today, it is a practical. Today, when you will visit Pakistan, you will see port is developed with a huge investment. A big cargo facility is there. Gwadar International Airport is completed. Pakistani thousands of students are getting scholarship in different universities of China. So what I want to elaborate that if other global powers will behave like this, that first chalk out a plan and then go practically on it, then you will see one by one.
I think Irfan is more talking about the deficit of global governance. For instance, the Global South want more global governance focused on development. But then many of the developed countries don't focus specifically on the need of development in those countries. So that's why, other than like World Bank or Asia Development Bank, we need AIIB, right? Because China and other countries see the gap, the deficit, and trying to fill the deficit. I think that exactly point out the shortcomings of the current global governance and why it's important Global South needs to raise this issue and then put that onto the top of the list as a priority.
Vitu? Well, you're coming from Africa. I'm sure you have your input here.
For me, I feel like he mentioned about uniformity, like having the same things happening when you go to another country, but which is, I feel, impossible for now, because how many countries are willing to risk it all to be at the same level with other countries? You see that there are some benefits that other governments would get when they go to another country, let's say an African country. Like we'll say, let's talk about education and employment. But if someone, let's say, is educated in Africa, it's not so easy for that person to find work in another developed country, like an actual good official work. While if you find somebody else educated in another country, let's say a developed country comes to undeveloped country, you find them that they will always have privileges. So I don't think it's so hard for us to have like uniformity, because other people will have to lose their power, and I don't think most countries are willing to lose their power to come at the same level with other governments. But
so level playing field is not easy. It's
not easy, but I would commend what the Chinese government has been doing so far, because it has been trying to not just be like a hegemony, like a superpower over other powers, but trying to bring forth like a balance, a bit of a balance to say, let us uplift as we live, as we go high. Yeah.
from peace and development to sustainable development goals.
各国要以改革创新激发发展潜力。
The UN has been a key stage for international governance and common aspirations. As the UN embraces its 80th anniversary, it's also becoming a crucial gauge to understand where the world is heading for. Join us for interviews and discussions on the UN and the future of international governance. I want you to take a look at all these wonderful ideas these ladies and gentlemen are providing. You know, anything we need to do today has to have some priorities.
Yep.
All these directions are wonderful, but what should be the priorities that we can all jump on together and make sure it can happen? After all, we are lack of confidence these days in global governance, so some good boost would be good, right? Your thoughts?
Travel around the world, I think there's a commonality out of my personal experience, which is going everywhere people want better lives. No exception,
That's
right?
true.
Even if you go to Europe, most developed countries, they want their vacation, they want a higher salary, they want a better life.
Good education for the kids
good
and
transportation
health.
system, good
Yeah.
health care, good education for their kids. Same thing with every country, every people around the world. They want jobs, they want. So I think there's a shared, let's just say, shared aspiration around the world. So if we want to prioritize that, just find the common sense, common consensus, like which are the matters most to everybody in the world, not what matters most to a certain group of people, even the privileged, a certain small group of people, and that's wrong. I think when we talk about global governance, not about a single country or a single region's governance, then that's the meaning, right? To have the largest possible audience, supporters of one agenda that will be prioritized.
Wonderful, I caught your word, common sense. Matyas, when you are a journalist in your country, in Hungary, and travel in the EU region, do they try to understand others' priorities too?
I've heard the term SDGs so many times in this discussion, and I've just tried to remember when the last time was that the SDGs formed like a visible part of policy discussions in the European Union or in any European Union country. I could not think of a single time. And the thing is, the current system of global governance operates on the principle that some issues are important to some countries, and other countries willingly lend their name to nice-sounding goals and then do nothing about implementing them. The Sustainable Development Goals for most of our European countries mean ticking boxes that we were good at in the first place, and then not really considering the fact that this is something that is a global initiative that we should be a part in lifting other countries out of their red SDG zones and lifting them into the green SDG zones, from not on track to on track, from falling behind to a positive trend. And I think we need to have a system in which we can be honest to each other as countries. I think SDGs as they currently are built upon dishonesty. It is a common denominator, words that everybody likes to hear, but the importance attached to them in different parts of the world is brutally different. And we cannot exist and keep existing in a global system where some of them subscribe to goals and only some have the actual intention to solve and reach them.
I see. Sheng, your response?
I think that the problem is that we cannot, arrive at a consensus agreement on something. It's more like we need more communication and common understanding. For example, we see.
Is it a lack of communication or is it lack of commitment?
I think that more communication is important, because even in UN we discuss one term or one thing. Different people have different ideas. Even, for example, even when we say smart cities, people have from different countries have different ideas about it. But this is what we are doing now. For example, in China, we try to do a lot of normative work. We summarize what is happening in China, and we hope that such kind of publications we can use this as a platform to communicate to each other. and especially based on our SDGs. So with such kind of tools, we hope that we can provide better public knowledge products, better public tools.
V2, will videos, will reports, will these kind of things really going to rally the crowd about the concept of global governance and how to get it done?
Well,
did I hear
wish
alongside before you answer that question already?
Yes, you did. Because my concern is the digital divide, especially where I come from. We were talking outside, and somebody mentioned that in China, even in the Himalayas, we have like 5G internet.
Yes, that's true.
Where I come from, there are so many parts that do not have internet connections and things like that.
Once again, that's about level of the playing field. But how, right? Where to start? Is it going to be about the UN who are doing that job? Or is it going to be the responsibility of national governments, local governments?
I believe our local governments have a lot of work to do. Because why do I say that? I have seen what China has done with their local governments. And it is one of the things that has promoted the growth of the smart cities. So it's not just about the UN, it's not just about international government, it's about the government itself, the local government itself. What are we doing in order to ensure that we close this gap? I know there's an issue of resources that are limited, but still more, there is something that we can start with. And right now, it's not even a talk. Let's say, for example, in my country about smart cities, it's not even a talk. We don't have that talk right now.
I had a small disagreement, but I wait for my turn. Local governments are unable to do in this era. Of course, United Nations can play a very pivotal role, and that was the foundation purpose of United Nations, that United Nations will stop the wars, United Nations will implement a good model of humanity, United Nations will facilitate the countries to sit together, dialogue together, and go for a better life of the mankind.
After all, even after our talk, we better figure something out, not waste everybody's time. So to you, what is it?
To me, I think in order to change people's behavior, first you need to change people's mind. And right now, there's a struggle going on with two logics or two philosophies in this world. One is, I think we've mentioned, is fundamentally a zero-sum game. How do you divide and conquer? How to maintain a certain privilege or hegemony or whatever dominance? You divide the other people and trying to keep your rights and your entitlement exclusively. And then the new thinking, the new idea, and particularly at the UN level, is a win-win game, right? You want to get people together, your benefit, your growth, your development will benefit me. And then my development further, bigger market, better opportunities will better you. So it's a sort of a rising tide, lift everybody. So until I think the world come together and realize that we share the same common destiny or something, we share the future, and particularly we cherish only one Earth, we will continue to be divided, particularly from the information side. Like you said, there's a digital gap, but I think more than digital gap is this propaganda machine that constantly trying to put people to identify differently.
The mindset gap.
By gender, by religion, right? By your skin color, by race, by all kinds of separate identities, and then create this conflict of interest instead of share interest. So I think fundamentally we need to change everybody's mind and come to the consensus or common sense that we share the same future.
When the global governance system that we talked about today appeared 8 decades ago, is it out of necessity? How do we see what the history, the nature of history is? Is it about practicality? Or is it about just something that's ultimately there and let's go there? Should we be naive? Or shall we be more matured and more seasoned in finding the solutions?
I think both, because just last month I visited San Francisco, the original site when the United Nations was declared established, just
Yes.
and back then I think that group of people have both a very future forward-looking aspiration. At the same time, they experienced a horrible war of World War II,
Right.
where millions of people just died. So it's both a necessity, both in order to prevent future wars,
Urgency.
but at the same time, they dream about a better world. So the current, I think, global governance is because of that generation's imagination. But I think you're right. Our generation, we need a new imagination. We need a new goal and a more practical solution, more actions to solve our problem.
More real common aspirations.
Yeah. So we need to carry the torch, but at the same time, we need to improve upon it, right? I think that's the mission for our generation.
Wonderfully said. Matyas.
So you've mentioned aspirations and you've mentioned pragmatism or necessity. I think it's neither one of those things that created this global system, and I don't want to be disrespectful towards it. I think it was built out of wisdom, because there's few things that make you less or make you more wise in a little amount of time than bleeding out in a war. Entering into an epoch of more wars and more heightened international tension shows us that the world has lost this collective fund of wisdom that was present 80 years ago. And it needs to have more wisdom. It needs to have more sense of purpose. It needs to have wisdom that is shared by humanity, that we are doing global governance to reach some things and avoid some other catastrophic things.
I think global governance is necessity of the time. Without a good global governance models, many states are unable to survive even if we look around the globe.
Human beings, we are currently facing real challenges that is much different from years ago. Still climate change, economy, etc. So I still believe that global governance is still a necessity, because as human beings, we still need a dream. We can work together. I would like to say that...
so it's a dream rather than a reality.
We still believe that we need a plan, for example, like SDGs, it is our plan. But we need tools. Global governance is one of the important tools that can help us to, still like a torch, can guide us to a better urban future.
Right.
Like a message that is passed on, even amongst individuals. If you tell him something, to tell this one something, so that he should tell me something, the message will be losing its value till it gets to the actual person. What he said and what you will get will be two different things. So I think for 80 years, some of the message and the vision that the people who sat down had for the world has been losing its value because it's being passed on from one generation to another. And as you can see, we have now different setups, different systems. The wars that we have now are not physical wars. We have now trade wars. So in addressing things like that, not just using what was built 80 years ago, but now refining them to now suit our current situations, I think it will be very helpful so that it will be beneficial for all. But I think it is a very still important thing, because where there is no vision, people perish. Yeah.
Stimulating conversation, I have to say. Stimulating conversation, I have to say. Everybody talks so fast. Obviously, it goes with the mind. I love that. Thank you so much for all of you joining us and sharing your insights always. Appreciate it. Thank you.